All right, so we're recording again. My name's Luke Angstadt. This is the Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom channel. I am the author of a book, The Musings of De La Pew. It's a 20-year investigation of the nature of reality, the nature of the universe, God, human beings, and the relationship between all of them. Today I have a guest on, a friend of mine who's been on a couple times before. His name's McKoy. Going to have McKoy introduce himself, and then we're going to pick up the conversation where it left off in the previous episodes, and that is with the question of how much circumstantial evidence do people need before it completely demolishes the official narrative coming from the mainstream media, which is just the mouthpiece of world governments. I mean, because most people we meet readily admit that nothing makes sense with the COVID-19 lockdown, nothing makes sense with this new monkeypox, which abracadabra pops up, according to
Yeah.
schedule. Nothing makes sense with the 9/11 investigation. Nothing makes sense with the JFK investigation. Nothing makes sense with the financial crisis of 2008 with the bank bailouts. I mean, we could just go on forever. And most people, and the vast majority of people will readily admit that none of the details ever make sense, but they will not
hmm
go to the place where they seriously question the intentions of their government. So I guess that
Yeah.
I thought that was a great place to pick up. And before we hit the record button with McCoy, I broached this subject, and he thought it was a great place to go with the conversation as well. So without any further ado, McCoy, I'm gonna have you introduce yourself to the audience, and then we'll get into it.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Jay. I'm McKoy, or as I'm known to Cigar Shop McKoy. That's how Luke and I met months ago and struck up a friendship and conversations with like-mindedness. And since Luke's been around a little longer than I have, it's fun to talk to him and pick his brain and learn from someone who's well versed in these topics we cover. So I think that's why we get along so well. But the topic that we're discussing is fantastic, and I got super excited. And Luke's like, "Hold on, let's hit record." And then now we're here. So I found on Facebook this morning, I'll take the app on and off my phone depending, for the mental health and just to stay away from that crap. But my friend posted on Facebook, he's like, "Isn't it curious, or what a coincidence, that we have a food shortage problem and all these factories are burning down, these processing plants, these animal facilities, some chicken farm
I saw
burned
the chicken farm.
recently."
Yeah, yeah. Like what?
And it
Yeah,
just literally piggybacks on our
yeah.
conversation, or just falls right in line with it. And I'm like, how long will it take for people to wake up? My brother and I were talking on Snapchat, texting about this crap that's going on. And he's like, how do people not see it?
Mhm.
And I think people are scared to admit the truth. I think the truth vastly outweighs uh, everything, and they're so scared to admit anything's wrong that they'd rather just hide behind the veil of ignorance when it comes to this
Yeah.
and not confront it, because confronting those demons and those realities and truths is
Mm.
scary, because reality is nothing is what it appears to be.
Yeah. No, I hear it. Yeah, and you see it in people's faces, and you really do. I see it in people's faces every time I even begin to broach the subject of, hey, there is something deep and dark and sinister and ugly going on here. And they without verbalizing it, I mean, they pretty much, give you the silent head shake agreement, but they just don't want to go there because it is too scary. I mean, the truth is too scary because
Yeah.
people, I mean, just and any most people, I mean, not even most people, I'm just saying people, almost everybody sees that something is going on here, and they can feel it and they know it, but they still don't want to have that conversation, right? I mean, there is still a wall
Yeah.
there this superabundance circumstantial evidence. Maybe that's not the right way to say it, but I mean, there's just a mountain of evidence, and it just continues to mount, and it seems like the more it mounts, the stronger the denial, right? I mean, it
Yes.
feels that way too. The stronger that the more they want to dig their feet into the ground and say, no, I am not going to look at this and confront it. As the evidence mounts, and as the pressure bears down, and as this global prison starts to squeeze even tighter, the more resilient they are with their denial. I get that sense
It's
too.
incredible.
Yeah.
There's a woman, I let a lot of things slide on Instagram and people post just erroneous crap and lies. But
Hmm.
there's this one woman I know from college who's a nurse. Respect her for being a nurse, but she acts like she's the end all be all, because I posted something on COVID and she tried to fight me on it. I'm like, well, this is just what's going on. She couldn't have a conversation.
Mhm.
This was last summer. Fast forward to 2 weeks ago, she was lambasting Republicans for denying COVID, for denying baby formula relief. And I'm like, hold on, 128 million, I get it. That's a lot of money and that's a lot of relief. Cool. Why? What's in the bill that they didn't like? That what's attached? What other spending is there that has nothing to do with that expenditure? She couldn't articulate well enough, and she blamed the Republicans. I'm like, well, you have to look at the bill, you have to look at this, you have to look at that. And she couldn't have an intellectual conversation. She couldn't say, hey, good point. Let me look at that. I sent her a video with a woman with Prager University. She's one of their hosts and has her own show. And she summarized it very well, saying, hey, this is what was in the bill. This is why. This is Biden's fault. He knew about it last fall. He knew about it in the spring, did nothing, let this situation go on, and then had the Republicans as the scapegoats so that gullible people like this woman, who you think would have common sense and know better, totally bought it hook, line, and sinker. And then she had the audacity to say, I want solutions. I'm just looking for solutions. I'm like, no, you're not. If you're looking for solutions, you would be agreeing with me saying this should have never happened. Why'd they allow it? And you're not going to question 40 billion to the Ukraine war effort.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, there are certain people, Luke, unfortunately, that we want to believe that. How can you not see it? Like, we all see it. What's wrong with you? They're just so arrogant that they can't admit they're wrong.
Mhm.
It's a condition of the heart and the mind, unfortunately. And biblical terms and aspects towards the end times, people's hearts harden, they turn away from God. What is right is wrong, what's wrong is right. And I think we're starting to live it out and experience that. But that's just an example I wanted to have about sharing how the heck can you not see this? It's right in front of you, and people just dig their heels in, and it's just arrogance. It's just sheer arrogance at this point.
And also, it's a testament to the power of mind control, right? I mean, since the end of World War II, and as with radio and moving pictures, and then television, I mean, the propaganda machine was perfected. The first half of the 20th, I mean, even before that, but I mean, especially by 1945. I mean, I'm just throwing a number out there, but they could. I mean, it was probably before then too. But let's just say by 1945, I mean, the propaganda machine, right, was fine tuned to perfection. And I mean, the 99% of people on this planet spend their entire lives under the spell of mind control and the brainwashing from the government, from all media, from all mainstream media outlets. And you see it because there's no end to it. I mean, every time we turn on our televisions, our phones, our computers, and it's just everywhere. I mean, there is nothing that isn't propaganda on the news. And we see the results of that when we with this degree of denial too. What you and I, people like us, can see. It's everywhere, but people cannot see it. And it also is biblical, as you mentioned too. You're absolutely right with that too. Yeah, it's biblical.
And what's fascinating is talking about propaganda from the last podcast I was on. I was talking to my parents last night. I had dinner with them, and we're talking about similar topics. And I quoted Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister. I don't know if I've told you this before, but I might have at the shop. But for everyone else, Hitler's propaganda minister said, "Give me the media, and I will turn the people into a herd of pigs."
Yeah.
Mass formation psychosis, like Dr. Malone talked about Rogan's podcast, of this mind-altering, mind-bending, tell a lie enough, and it becomes truth, your truth and your reality. And some people know it's a lie beginning, the perpetrators know it's a lie going into it. But I believe as the more they tell it and the lies get deeper and deeper, and they're deep down that rabbit hole of what they started, they start to believe the lie themselves, that they forget that they had created the lie.
Wow,
Joe Biden's a great example.
That's terrifying right there.
Yeah. Isn't that?
That's some scary shit.
Creepy. Yeah. And Joe Biden's a perfect example of that. I mean, Trump's an bloviating boob too, and he does not exasperate, excuse me. He does pontificate, which is really frustrating because he's an arrogant ass. But Joe Biden has been telling lies throughout his whole professional career, and he believes the lies he tells. He was caught in them this weekend.
He's even here now. I mean, is he here? I mean, you
No.
almost see that there's even, I mean, there's almost like there's got to be a guy even holding him up in the back. I mean, when we talk about these, our leaders being puppets and how, and, obviously the Ukraine where they had the coup d'etat in 2019 or 2020 to put the puppet, they're all puppet machines, but I mean, Biden's the
Yes.
most obvious one. I mean, this guy,
Mhm.
I mean, it makes you wonder if he's like, if they have an actor wearing a Mission Impossible style mask. And I mean, people have said that on
Yeah.
many occasions where they think they can see where the mask, connects or
He has
connects
a double. Yeah.
right? I mean, you almost think he has a
Yeah.
double because the guy is just,
I mean, every president
there are
has a
no
double.
words to describe his level of dementia, right? I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's an issue that runs close in our family. Not to get into specifics, but the person I know is in their late 60s and has early onset.
Hmm.
Joe Biden's in his late 70s and is full blown. He is drugged up out of his freaking mind.
Hmm.
Sure, it affects people at different levels, but when you get to that age, he is just propped up. He's just a puppet. Someone else is pulling the strings in this administration, as we know. A lot of Obama's former people
Hmm.
are deeply involved. And you've also got the deep state running it for sure. But it's not him. Let's just say that.
So let me change the subject a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
What do you think about, what do you think is going on with the monkeypox? Because kind of like with the same thing with like Event 201 in October of 2019 when they ran the simulation of a global viral outbreak. What are we going to do? How will all the world governments, globally coordinate to shut everything down overnight? And then abracadabra, from October 2019 to March 2020, here it happens. It's just a coincidence. And the same, obviously, they're playing this. They're playing it out from the same game plan from I think it was either March or May of 2021, where they were discussing this monkeypox and unleashing the monkeypox a year later. And here we go, abracadabra, the monkeypox comes, and there's once there are 10 cases globally, we're ready to lock everything down again. So where do you,
It's not
what
going
do
to
you know
work.
with that? Because I just know the
Yeah.
broad strokes because I really haven't had the time to get into it lately. But what do you know about the monkeypox right now? Where are you at with the monkeypox, McKoy?
I found out about this. There's a festival in Belgium. It was some LGBTQ celebration thing. Great, go have your festival.
Hmm.
It is spread. Let me preface this by saying it's not as big of a deal because of the negative connotation that has this with a certain political agenda, and they can't let the truth come out. So it was started in the homosexual community.
Hmm.
That's how it's spread.
Okay.
So they had that festival, dudes tested positive, and they're like, oh crap. And then it's spread throughout. But the thing is, since they know it's spread through the homosexual community and the bi-curious, even let's say that, or people that want to experiment, whatever, do your thing. They realized, oh shit, this goes against our total cultural agenda with the LGBTQ movement. And they don't want to have that negative light that says, oh my God, you can get this disease by having sex with the same gender.
Mm-hmm.
We can't let this get out. We can't use this.
Mm-hmm.
We can't use this as an excuse to shut things down because it's going to make our movement look bad. So I think with that truth coming out, with people realizing, oh, that's how it's spread and contracted, oh, then I'm good. I'm free. Why would you want to lock me down? Why'd you have to shut down this, that, or the other thing?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it's going to be a factor. I could be wrong. They could try to, obviously they spin and lie to do things their way, right?
Mm-hmm. And really, McKoy, I mean,
I just don't think
like one of those things
it's
where
going to work.
It popped, it kind of like popped it was like a big headline, maybe maybe a week ago or 10 days ago. And I haven't seen that much mention. It's become like a byline now. I mean, I don't want to,
yes,
I don't want to be
you're correct.
But it's, you have to, like maybe like a week ago, you didn't have to hunt to find it because it was at the headlines, but now it's below, it's well below. So it's like you have to hunt to find that story. I mean,
it doesn't fit their agenda.
Because right, it kind of it popped and then boom,
100%.
now it's in the shadows again.
Because they realized, oh shit, this makes the gay community look bad. We can't have that because we have to make them look like saints and angels.
Yeah.
And not look at what could be argued some mental health issues in the LGBTQ community, IAP plus, whatever the heck they go by now. But so I think it's a non-factor.
Mm-hmm.
They're most likely going to scheme something else up. They had the meeting in Davos about how they want to have the global control by 2030. You'll own nothing and like it. Did you see any of that?
Which
with
one?
the Davos,
Which one's that?
the World Economic Forum meeting
Which day?
the
When
other
was
week.
which recent one was this?
The one in Davos.
Okay. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
familiar with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, they were just talking about the world agenda, what they want to do. So this monkeypox isn't working for their global conspiracy, for the global agenda, because it just doesn't. Yeah,
So McKoy,
doesn't work.
but there's another angle I heard on the monkeypox, and it's broader than just the monkeypox, and that is that I've heard that once people get the COVID-19 jab, that especially for like the first 2 weeks or so, I mean, the immune system is so compromised, in particular for like the first 2 weeks, that it leaves a person open and susceptible to
Oh
so
yeah.
many other contagions that they would otherwise have a natural immunity to. Have you heard
Mhm.
that too? And I've heard that is especially applicable to this monkeypox. So that a
I mean, it
lot of
makes sense.
so we're hearing the cases of the monkeypox are from people that have recently gotten the jab because their immune systems are so compromised at that
Oh, I
time.
believe it
So,
100%.
yeah,
Oh
yeah,
yeah, totally.
yeah.
With the COVID thing, my mom sent me, I don't have an Epoch, or however you pronounce it, Epoch Times subscription, but she sent me an article about a pilot that had a heart attack in flight and he had the COVID vaccine.
Mhm.
I couldn't read it. I just read the headlines. I was like, oh, that's a good, clickbait.
Mhm.
But it's true.
Yeah,
It ruins your immune system and then it causes these blood clots. And then, holy crap, as a pilot, I
yeah,
wouldn't, I would not feel, I already hate having fat pilots on the flight deck. I'll just be honest. As a
mhm,
pilot, I stay fit and healthy because I've been bigger. I've been what would classify as obese according to the BMI scale, but it's not always accurate. But I was fatter than
mhm,
what I am now. And I was like, oh my God, I'm super unhealthy. I got to get this back. Right.
yeah,
So when I see pilots that don't care about their nutrition and already are susceptible to heart disease and having uh, uh, cardiac issues coupled with the COVID
mhm,
vaccine, no, thank you I can't get it because of my autoimmune disease, and I will fight that tooth and nail, so I don't
mhm,
have to get it.
mhm,
But it just goes back to the other thing that you talked about earlier. I don't know if we breached this, but population control, and then just weakening the immune system to
mhm.
compromise people, and that just circles back to what you were saying about monkeypox being able to spread in people, and essentially the uh, gay community.
Mhm.
Their system's already weak, so now introduce this to maybe wipe them out.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like it's kind of like a to be continued here with the monkeypox because the story broke. Now it's kind of like the bylines. I have to really hunt to find information
Oh
on it.
yeah.
So, I mean, I'm just to be continued with this one. I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, you can't put anything past these people, and wherever it ends up going,
Yeah.
it won't surprise me.
Hmm.
But
No, not in the slightest. Wouldn't surprise me either. They're scheming something else. There's always something else going on. It's always smoke and mirrors to distract from what's really going on, right?
hmm
Uh, and they're good at it. They're
yeah, they
freaking good at it.
yeah.
Yeah. It's creepy.
I mean, after the Uvalde shooting, I mean, obviously there were
Oh,
there's in the online
this came to
community that
mind too.
there's going to be a shooting at a hospital. This is before the shooting in Tulsa. And next thing you know, there's a shooting in a hospital. That with the Tulsa shooting.
Oh,
Yeah,
I forgot about that. I just saw a blurb.
yeah,
I
and
didn't really pay much mind to it.
then you
I
got
think,
Beto O'Rourke who doesn't miss the opportunity to grandstand. I mean, they don't even hide it anymore. I mean, what I mean? They
no,
don't even make a pretense of
no.
of they don't even make a pretense of it not being a part of their agenda to get to take people's guns. I mean,
Yeah.
they have. I mean, and to use a great, no pun intended, but they have all guns blazing right now to
Oh,
remove
for
the
sure.
Second
It's a good
Amendment
one.
and to take people's guns. I mean, they're not
That's how
hiding.
authoritarians take over. They use it in the guise of it's for your own good,
Yes, for your own
right?
good. Yes, absolutely.
But the criminals, F it. The criminals can do whatever the heck they want. That's why they're
hmm
criminals.
hmm
I was just actually, I'm glad you brought this up. I was just watching a Charlie Kirk video about gun control, right? How Australia took the guns and they've got problems of their own.
hmm
But in the States, what, 33,000 gun deaths a year? How many are suicide? How many are by accident,
hmm
right? So
hmm
take those numbers out, it drops dramatically. And then you take out the self-defense, that's about another 500 they take out.
hmm
So you're looking, it was 33,000, about 22,000 is suicide that we don't talk about.
hmm
500 is the incidental, I'm an idiot and didn't know what I'm doing. I mean, gun
hmm
safety is so elementary, but that's a topic for another time. And then
Mhm.
you've got the self-defense, like someone like me who's like, oh heck no, I'm not gonna get robbed. Like I have castle doctrine. I have an idea of my Florida statute for self-defense. I'm
Mhm.
covered.
Mhm.
But then you take that out, and then a majority of it is criminals who aren't allowed to have guns, but they still get them.
Mhm.
You've got DAs that won't prosecute and judges that won't sentence. And there's your problem. And they never want to touch that. Go to any south side of a major city or any bad neighborhood. How many people have rap sheets? How many people got their guns illegally?
Mhm.
It's not about it's not about trying to help people. Because if it was, they'd enforce the laws on the book. Why are they trying to damn us gun owners to hell and stuff and defenseless? All because we believe we have the right to defend ourselves and we're being stripped away from that. Um, it's really diabolical and genius. It's
It
really
really is.
genius. You
Yeah.
have to give your hats off to these people.
Mhm. You do.
Sorry
Yeah,
about that
and,
thing.
and what gets lost in the shuffle is that the primary it's the primary reason of the Second Amendment is to protect people from a tyrannical government, and even that's
Hmm.
the founding fathers said that, ad nauseum, ad
Oh
infinitum.
yeah,
That it's not. I mean, yeah, sure, we have them to go deer hunting, and I hunted deer as a kid, and we
oh
have
cool.
guns to go deer hunting and bear hunting, but I mean, primarily we have the gun. The guns are there to protect for the people to protect themselves from tyranny. That's why it's there. That is why we have
Yes,
the Second Amendment, and that's why this country hasn't turned into Canada, Australia, Austria, Great Britain.
New
It's because of the
Zealand. Yeah,
Second Amendment, and there isn't a single other reason why. I mean, I mean, in addition to the fact
yeah,
that we have the greatest legal document that puts every safeguard into
yes.
the decentralized power. Of course, no one. I mean, that's another thing that's lost in the cacophony of
They're
nonsense. But
intentionally
no,
not taught that. Yeah,
yeah, and people aren't taught that it is to protect us from a tyrannical government, and
a
you know,
100%.
yeah.
And they know it. Law
Oh, they
enforcement
know it.
knows it.
Oh, the law enforcement knows
That's
it.
why.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they know it, and that's why I think we talked about. I think you and I might have talked about this. Why they're trying to import their new police force to support their authoritarian regime that's trying to be implemented in this country by killing off U.S. citizens through via abortion.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have a generation or a few that are committed, at least given a chance to understand this country, the specialty of it, despite her flaws, which are many, as we know.
Mhm.
Um, but if you kill off generations via the abortion route and import them from the South, from all countries all around the world, and then you've got a new police force that isn't dedicated to the Constitution, they're dedicated to the authoritarian regime, those people would be way more comfortable seizing our guns
Yeah.
and taking us away and taking us to camps like they do in China,
Mhm.
for example, the Uyghur Muslim population, which is just that's another topic. But back to the Second Amendment, they know a
Yeah.
lot of law enforcement. I believe a lot of law enforcement would be like, I'm not going to get freaking shot and killed because you want me to seize someone's gun
Mhm.
because you don't like. That's what I don't like about the red flag law. That's a whole nother topic as well.
Mhm.
But that's why they need people who aren't dedicated to the Constitution to come in and take over our police force so they can implement their authoritarian regime. It sounds lunacy. People
No,
will
but
say
that's what
that.
it is. That's what they're
But if you're
doing.
not asking
Yeah.
questions, and
Yeah.
that's what they're doing, you have to think like these monsters. It's creepy.
Mhm.
You have to put yourself in that mindset because I think it's so evil,
Mhm.
but you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes to
Mhm.
understand what's going on and be like, oh, seeing it from your perspective and your angle, now I'm starting to get an idea of why you're like this. And
Mhm.
now I can formulate a better argument to counteract you,
Mhm.
right? It's
Yeah.
the best way to have a counter argument to someone who's so hell bent on, oh, it's the Republicans' fault for the baby formula shortage. I want a solution. You push back and say, okay, I can see where you're coming from, but what about X, Y, and Z?
Mhm. No, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But that, what'd you shoot? What'd you hunt with? Is it when you were
Oh, I
deer
hunted
hunting?
with a 30-30, a 30-06.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Mhm.
Nice. That's cool. I've got a beautiful Remington 770 that I let my buddy hunt with years ago. I haven't hunted with it yet. I'm like, I need to put some rounds through it and just sight it. And
Mhm.
I want to go hunting. I got to get my deer license.
Mhm. Yeah, it's been
It'd be
quite some
fun.
time. It's been several years since I've gone hunting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I
It's a
was living in
blast.
Seattle for 6 years, I didn't do any hunting in Seattle. It's been probably close to 10
Cool.
years since I've gone hunting.
Yeah. You got to back on that.
Yeah. So where are you? You looks like you're in a canopy or a tent. Are you camping at your home, or is that just where are we?
So there's a courtyard. There's a looking out. What I'm looking out at is a fence, and I've got a fence to my Sorry for the light
No, it's okay.
disparage, but and then up here is a little pavilion, and then back here is the rest of the unit, and then I'm in the courtyard under this covered area.
Mhm,
So I'll come out here to study and read, and then obviously enjoy a cigar because it's a vice, a tasty vice.
mhm,
But yeah, so I'm outside. I'm enjoying the weather before it rains all day, or hopefully it doesn't. But
mhm,
yeah, I'm outside.
mhm. Yeah, and one thing, and so when we see this going on, I was talking with my guest the other day, where it's kind of like we're walking a razor's edge here, and we're either going to devolve into a global, just a completely globally enslaved society with with a 1% of 1% of 1% of people lording it over the rest of us, or there
Hmm.
is going to be there is going to be a global awakening. There's going to be an ascendant. We're going to raise the global consciousness. And
Yeah,
my what my
agreed.
friend before was saying, that the reason that we haven't seen enough of a pushback in the United States from people is because it hasn't hit them hard enough yet. I mean, they haven't.
Hmm.
The majority of people, I mean, they've lost a lot of money. They've seen their stock portfolio dip. They've seen
Hmm.
their Roth IRAs, dip. But they haven't been to the point where they felt where they thought they're going to lose their roof, they're going to lose their home, they're going to lose their ability to put food on the table and a roof over their head. So they haven't gotten to that point yet where they haven't felt they haven't been completely pushed up to the wall where they have nothing left to lose by
Yeah.
fighting for it. But so that's why we haven't seen enough of a pushback in the United States. But we have seen this in Europe, McKoy, because places like
Mm.
Austria and France, where they have been pushed to the brink, and the people
Yes.
have stood up there, and they have been marching by tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands. I mean, that might be hundreds of thousands, might be an exaggeration, but I've heard. I mean, I've seen reports, and I've seen them, and I'm sure you have, where tens of thousands of people are
Yeah.
marching in countries like Austria and France, because they first of all, they didn't have the same level of freedoms and personal sovereignty that we had in the United States. So
Hmm.
it was a quicker process to get them to the point where they had nothing
Yeah.
else. They had nothing else to
Oh,
lose.
totally.
And when they got to that
Yeah.
point, we did see the pushback in places like that. Even Australia too, we've seen the pushback. So that gives
Yeah.
me hope. That it's a shame that
Yes.
I think it's a shame, because I think society does have to be pushed to the point where they are at the absolute brink of no return before people say, okay, enough is enough. But once they
Yeah.
get
And
there,
our
they do find the
and
courage. People find the courage as a community to stand up to it.
totally. And what's really jacked up is our media intentionally does not cover that, because if
Yeah,
they did, France is a great example. Years ago, under the Obama regime, with the Paris Climate Accord, right?
hmm
You saw their energy costs skyrocket in France in particular.
hmm
It had nothing to do with the environment. That's such hokey bull crap. When
hmm
you got modernized Western nations like ours in Western Europe
hmm
drastically reducing their CO2 emissions and earnestly saying, yeah, climate change, is it a concern? Sure. We can argue the semantics of how severe it is, but are there common sense, logical ways to approach it? Sure. Let's slowly phase in, slowly implement solar and wind, but keep our fossil fuel based systems in line to help support it and slowly wean off versus cutting off like that.
hmm
So by raising the fuel costs in Europe, and then France was like, holy crap, we're paying this much for a liter of gas? This is insane. Y'all said it would be better for us. And now the natural gas we need to heat our homes, now we can only get it from Russia, who's charging up the wazoo for it. And now you're telling us that's just the way it is, climate change. So what's really screwed up is if the media actually reported what was going on in that country and other countries, they'd be like, well, why? And then people might do their research, be like, oh, I had no idea that had to do with the Paris Climate Accord. It has nothing to do with it's guised, it's disguised as for the planet. Oh my God, who doesn't want to be a good steward of it? We all do to some degree in some respect, but it's just simply redistribution of wealth. That's all the Green New Deal is. It's simply redistribution of wealth. That's it. So if we had an honest media reporting on this, but then you've got the propagandists, as we talked about, that don't want that, because that would be bad for the narrative. So that's my thoughts on what you mentioned about those riots and those people
Yeah.
protesting.
Yeah.
It's just insanity. And I hope people wake up. I think what you were saying is people being pushed to the brink
Mhm.
to wake up. Look, go to the grocery store.
Mhm.
My God, I paid. I I've thought about, oh, what food could I live without and cut back on that I like to eat? So in this example,
Mhm.
every day I've got a sandwich with 3 types of meats because I need the protein and I need some carbs for my job and then also for just the energy level and the basic nutrition, right?
Mhm.
So I was like, oh, maybe I could cut back on spending the money on that lunch meat and I'll just do peanut butter sandwiches now, help reduce the cost. Simple things like that where people are like, wait, I should be able to go to the grocery store, not think about budgeting for lunch meat
Yeah, you should.
or things of that nature. And it's just so incredibly expensive for things. 2 years ago, you would have never thought in a million years you'd be paying this much.
Mhm.
My God, gas, $63 for 14 and a half gallons on my Subaru Outback.
Mhm.
I think more people realize and say, wait, how did this happen? Oh, we stopped the drilling and leasing permits? Why? On the name of environmentalism.
Mhm.
No, it's just control.
Mhm.
That's all it is. And I think hopefully I'm praying, I really do genuinely pray that people wake up and that they realize, oh my gosh, we're we gotta wake up from this.
Mhm.
We gotta realize, and Republicans are not immune from my scorn and uh dislike for politicians. Let's just say that.
Mhm.
We'll keep it friendly
Mhm.
because they're in on the get charade too. I think there are some conservatives that genuinely do care about this country, but I think a lot of Republicans and a lot of Democrats, not a lot of Democrats, the loudest ones are pushing for this the most. There are a lot of Democrats who are like, holy crap, dude, we don't even agree with this, but too scared
Mhm.
to say anything because of the town square. They don't want to be hung in the town square, so to speak,
Yeah, you have a lot of
proverbially.
more. You have a lot of more Democrats that are like Bill Maher, right? Because Bill Maher
Hmm.
can read the tea leaves and he sees what's going on and he sees that that's not the Democratic
Yeah,
Party of 20 years ago or even 5 years ago. But
yeah.
they don't want to lose power. They don't want to lose their status. They don't want to lose the
No,
gravy
they're
train. They
cowards.
don't speak out against it, but they know it's not liberalism. I mean, communism
No,
is not
it's
liberalism.
Marxism,
It's Marxism. Yeah, and yeah,
100%. It's
yeah,
an evil
yeah.
ideology.
It is.
Marx was an evil person. So was Engels.
Mhm.
I'm okay if they're burning in hell. They're just terrible human beings.
Mhm.
But you pray for the people that are still with us and around saying, hey, just pray you open up your heart and your mind to something different and humble yourself and ask questions. It's okay
Mhm.
to be vulnerable like that. I asked my cousin a question about, she was outraged. I don't know how much her outrage meter's been broken yet.
Mhm.
She always finds more outrage.
Mhm.
But she's like, oh my gosh, another state passed a gender bill. And I was like, instead of arguing with her, I don't want to be like, this flies in the face of feminism that you supposedly support, which is horseshit. So I can just tell you that right now. Excuse my language.
Mhm.
But
So
um,
McKoy, we are at 1 minute right now. I don't know if you see up in the upper
oh,
left corner. So our time is
oh my gosh. Okay,
known
go
here.
ahead, wrap it up, and we can
So I
we
think
can
this
cover
is a
this
great
next
place
time.
to wrap it up, and we'll get you.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, next week. So usually Thursdays and Fridays you said are pretty good for you. So I had a
yes,
pretty
sir.
hectic couple weeks here, but hopefully things get back to
Yeah,
normal and we can make this more of a weekly arrangement here. Getting you on.
yes, sir.
All
That
right.
sounds good. Well, thank you, Luke.
All right. Thanks, McKoy, and I will see you at Maduro's sometime. I'm
Yes,
sure
you
I'll
will.
soon this weekend. All right.
All right, see you, bud.
Okay. I'll catch
Bye.
you later. Good seeing you. Bye bye.